Guruve Gaura Chanjaya Radhikaya Tadale Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tada Bhaktaya Namo Namaha Pancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Dhanyavad Pranam, devotees. So I am responding to a question that came in from a devotee who asked that in a previous lecture, I'm not sure exactly which lecture, they heard me mention that the English word love, that the English word love was not an adequate translation of the word Prema. Of course, we speak often about Krishna Prema, about the goal of the practice of bhakti being Prema. And so, of course, the only available translation, so to speak, to give some indication of that has been love. But I mentioned that my Gurudev, Nitalila Pravishtom Vishnupada Paramanksa, Stutara Saptasisamad, Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, and not only my Guru Parapadma, but our Srila Prabhupada and others, Vaishnavas, realized Vaishnavas, have also mentioned the inadequacy of the word love as a true translation of the word Prema. And so the devotee was asking why, because is not Prema actually love of God, because that's how we translate it. So what has been mentioned by our Guru Vargas is that Prema is actually, first of all, an absolutely transcendental reality without any tinge of material influence. And we cannot actually say the same about the common parlance that we use in describing material emotions and using the word love. Because first, anything that is of spiritual content has certain qualities. One quality is that it is eternal, Sat, because you know Sat Chit Ananda. So even the very basic understanding of something that's spiritual is that it is eternal. And we do not experience the function of love within the material world as something that's eternal. Sometimes people in the sentiment will say, I will love you forever. But the reality is that we will not exist as the two individuals expressing that phrase. They will not exist eternally as those two persons, because by their karmic package or their karmic influence, they will become two completely different people in the very next life. So there is no permanency of an exchange of, quote, love between conditioned situations or conditioned persons. Actually, in the Shastra it's mentioned, Kaitavam Rahitam Prema, Na Prema Manushloke. So the word Prema is used here to describe that in the material world, Kaitavam Rahitam Prema, what is appearing to be like Prema, this love, appearing to be like Prema, is actually Kaitava. Kaitava means cheating. So here it's not a gross form of cheating. It's to express that the so-called love in the material world really is not imbued with a pure sentiment. And when I give the definition of Prema, it will make sense. The definition that Srila Rupa Goswami Pad has given of Prema, one definition, Savata Dongsa Rahitam, Yarapi Dongsha Karane, Yad Bhava Bandhano Prema Parikirtita. Savata Dongsha Rahitam, Yarapi Dongsha Karane. The word donks means to break something or to destroy something. So, Srila Rupa Goswami Pad has mentioned that Prema is something that under no circumstance can it be broken. Even if a cause was to arise, it could not be broken. So this is very interesting because in the material world, the so-called feeling of love is always contingent on causes. It needs a cause to come about. It's not axiomatic. Even sometimes the closest thing people will say to unconditional love in this world is parental affection for a child. But even in that parental affection, there is the genesis of a cause. This is my child. And the child has to even grow into the consciousness, going through the stages like anamoya, pranamoya, etc., to even recognize the nature of a relationship with that person who's given them birth. So, and then, love may develop, but even we see over the course of time, even among parent and child, sometimes due to a cause, that love is broken. So it both has a cause to begin and it also could have a cause to be broken. Whereas the transcendental nature of prema, yadapi dongsha karane. If there was a karan, means a cause. Api means even though there's a cause for the love to be broken, yad bhava bandhano yuno. Rather than breaking the love, it strengthens the love and brings the two people closer together. So to give an example, if Shri Krishna will do something to upset Srimati Radhika, then the love between Radha and Krishna will take on a nuance. That nuance is called man. You understand? So man is actually a transformation of love itself. It is not a separated mentality from love or is working converse to love. It is actually a feature of an evolution in love. So briefly, let me explain that spiritual love goes through various stages, and each stage with its own unique quality maintains itself while nourishing itself to grow to another stage. So first there is bhav. Bhav means when there's a descent of a slight ray of prema into the heart of a jiva. Right? This is explained in Nectar of Devotion or Bhakti Rasmrita Sindhu by Rupa Goswami. Suda Sattva Visheshatma Prem Suryanksa Samyabha Ruchi Bis Chittamasranya Kiraso Bhavuchate. This stage of Bhav has the quality that it's like a ray of sunshine of prema. And when it enters the heart, it expands the ruchi. Ruchi means like the particular unique taste a person has towards Shri Krishna and Srimati Radhika. It completely nourishes that ruchi, and by that ruchi be chitta masranya. Chitta means the consciousness of the conditioned soul. In their chitta is so many material impressions and sanskars. When this ray of prema, called bhavarati, enters, it melts away. Chitta masranya, masranya means to melt. It melts away any alternative or false identities related to the jiva and reveals the true nature in combination with that particular unique taste one has towards God, their spiritual identity. So this is called Rati Bhav, and this is the initial stage of prema. In the material body, because of the nature of prema and the nature of the transformative qualities that come with prema, the material body is not suited to deal with it. Therefore, in the material body, prema cannot be housed in full. So when one comes to the point of making their transition and they have come to the stage of bhav, then in the next life, wherever Sri Krishna is performing his lila within the material universes, that soul will take birth there, and according to the nature of their particular rasa, will get a form that is called Vastu Siddhi. Vastu Siddhi means a form composed of actual spiritual elements. Right? The soul already is Sat, Chit, and Ananda. But when Bhav comes, that soul's quality of Satchidananda will become absolutely one with the spiritual substances called Samvit, Sandini, and Alladini. Sometimes devotees think this is one and the same thing, but it's really not. Satchidananda means eternity, the principle of cognition, and a state of Ananda. In the conditioned souls, that Ananda, Jiva Goswami Pada is written in Paramatma Sandarbha, he quotes one verse, Chit Ananda Atmaka. And he explains that Ananda here means the state of the soul is the antithesis, because he quotes Dukkha Pratiyogita. And this word Pratiyogi is coming from one school of thought called Nyaya. And Pratiyogi means the opposite of something. So he's saying the soul in its very nature is the opposite of misery, which means there is no misery in the Atma itself. I've explained this many times, that misery is a vicarious arrangement between the individual soul and its identification with the avidya shakti and hence the material elements. So there is no actual misery in the soul itself. It comes from that connection of vicarious identification with the material energy. So it's not that the state of Ananda is exactly the same as the state of the influence of the spiritual energy called Ahladini Shakti. The Ahladini Shakti is a vritti of Prema. And that function of Prema evolves. It's nourished by itself and it evolves itself through various stages. So once we take birth in wherever Krishna is performing his pastimes, at that time we receive a body composed of Sandini Shakti imbued with Ahladini Shakti, and we will have the cognitive potency of Samvit to experience this spiritual reality. Now, that Prema also nourishing itself becomes Sneha. What is this verse? Aruya Paramakashta Chit Deepa Deepana Hridayam Dravayam. So now it's describing the stage called Sneha. Sneha means, one English translation is, I don't know, affection. None of these words really capture the meaning of these transcendental spiritual terms, right? But Sneha means when Prema has become more intensified, Chit Deepa Deepana. A deep means like a light. So Chit Deepa Deepana. It means that the intensity of the feeling itself illuminates itself. So understand this. So the nature of the love that has come to the position of Sneha becomes so intense that the Sneha itself inspires itself to further melt the heart. Hridayam Dravyatam, liquefying the heart. Dravyatam means to liquefy something, essentially. So by the intensity of the growth of that Prema becoming Sneha, it completely illuminates itself and further melts the heart. I'm not going into details because in Ujjwal Nilamani, many details about what is Sneha. It has two divisions. There is Grita Sneha and Madhu Sneha, so many things that we'll lose track if I try to explain every detail here. So Sneha means this further melting of the heart. That Sneha then transforms either into Man or to Pranay. There's different sequences under which one comes before the other. But taking the term Pranay, so what does Pranay mean? Pranay is described in Ujjwal Nilamani, Swarup, Pranaya Sasya, Visrambha, Buddhi, Kaitito Buddhi. So here it's saying, Kaitito Buddhi, those who are very learned, they understand that this stage called Pranaya means Pranayasya Visrambha. It means when there's so much intimacy that the lover and the beloved no longer keep separate identity, but consider themselves like one. So let me try to give an example in the material atmosphere. If any, and there really is no comparison, but I'm just, so give us some kind of pictorial jumpstart. In the material world, if any young lady and young man, they will meet, and they are going to go on a date for the first time, then because of a lack of familiarity, a lack of intimacy in the genesis of the relationship at that point, a great deal of etiquette and respect and a fear of treading on the wrong side of things, all of that becomes the dominant feeling within the heart of the couple, the male and the female. Because this is a first date and you don't want to transgress any social etiquette. You understand? But as the relationship begins to grow, there is an organic and natural unfoldment of a kind of intimacy. And in that intimacy, there's a kind of familiarity. So for instance, on the second, third date, I'm not speaking from recent experiences, obviously. I've been married, I don't know how long now, 28, 27 years. So, but in that arrangement of the growth, there comes a point in the unfoldment where you feel comfortable to hold hands. Then you may feel more comfortable to embrace. Then you may feel more comfortable to exchange a kiss or something. So in this way, gradually there's a intimacy and familiarity that's organically growing. So the position of pranaya is like this. You understand? Except that it has generated from the intensity of sneha. Then that pranay, because of intimacy, can lead to states where ahili premana goti swabhava kutila bhavet. When it can become, ahi means a snake. So that feeling can take on some crookedness. And this crookedness is called man. Because of the familiarity, then either hetu or ahetu, means with a cause, without a cause, sometimes a crookedness will take place in the unfoldment, and there will be a reason or not, right? Either contrived reason or an actual reason for the couple now to be separated. But the intensity of their desire to be together is still there. But circumstances, either contrived or actual, create a situation in which they are separated. This situation is called man. So you can see just from these explanations of Srila Rupa Goswami Pad and Ujjwala Mani that Prema has so many functions which are not at all present or captured by the term love. If you ask in the world to define love, people really will maybe give out a bunch of different emotional feelings, so to speak. Well, love is when you completely feel good about somebody, or you get butterflies in your stomach, or of course that could be indigestion as well. But anyway, I'm joking here. But the point being that there is no defined quality, so to speak, and therefore some people will say, well, love can't be described. It's a feeling. You understand? But the point being that because it is not an actual spiritual substance, and because it's temporal, and because it's born or generated from material consciousness, it's not real enough to have a substantive definition. So please don't become depressed here. Oh, does that mean I don't love my husband or I don't love my children? No, because there is a such thing as real love, spiritual love. There certainly has to be a reflection of that in the material world. Instead, just like everything in the material world, the nature of relationships, the nature of everything is simply a perverted reflection of what's in the absolute reality. So there is a reflective quality of spiritual true love in the material world, but as I mentioned from the verse I quoted, kaitavam rahitam prema, basically it's, now kaitava here, the word kaitava in Sanskrit means cheating, but here it does not mean necessarily cheating with malice. It means it's just not substantively real, because our identities in these bodies is not eternal. And therefore, because the very nature of love being spiritual, as I mentioned in the beginning, is an eternal phenomenon, we cannot truly call it love. So therefore, our acharyas have said it's kaitava. You understand? Kaitava means it's a kind of cheating because it's not substantively real. Now, I do want to make one caveat here that Sri Rupa Goswami Pad in Upadeshamrita, means Nectar of Instruction, he has described the Datti Pratagrinati Guyamakyati Prichati Bhukte Bojayate Chaiva Sadvidam Priti Lakshanam. He's described that the exchanges that go on between those in whose lives Shri Krishna is the center, their exchanges are imbued with the Lakshan quality of Priti, of love. So then Mukunda, how could that be? Because aren't even those who are practicing, aren't they still technically in conditioned life? Even though they may be at some particular level still of unfolding from conditioned life, because they have established the center of their affection as Shri Krishna, then from the watering of that root, the tree of their association with others who have put Krishna as the center will carry the quality of Priti. Therefore, in Vaishnav Maitri, means Vaishnav friendship, there is the quality of love. And 6 symptoms of that quality are Dadati Pratagrinati, Guyamakiti Prachiti, etc. Right? Means giving gifts, receiving gifts, exchanging confidences, revealing confidences, honoring prasad, giving prasad. There's very detailed meanings to these things, and I'm not going there now. But, so the quality of Prema is present in those relationships in which Sri Radha Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Hari Guru, and Vaishnava are the center. You understand? So, but as I was describing, these functions and how love elevates itself in a spiritual context is not present in the so-called exchange of feelings in the material world called love. Also, the very quality of the eternal function of the love. I mentioned that Rupa Goswami Pad has given a definition, Savata Donksarahitam. Under no condition can it be broken. Well, you see that in the material world, people can be in love for 2 months, and in month 3, they can hate each other. So obviously, the quality of what is exchanged in this world as feelings certainly doesn't meet that definition of Savata Donksarahitam. Rather, extremely, it can go to the opposite polarity. You can be in love with somebody for 1-2 months, and then in the 3rd month, hate could arise. And even some people will be in a relationship for 15-20 years, and then some discord will come in which they are separated, and that, quote, feeling is no longer there. And additionally, the so-called feeling of love is so malleable in the material world that it can go from one person to another. Oh yes, I was in love with this person for 2 years, but then now I'm in love with this person. Whereas the love of God, true love, is always centered and stays centered in the absolute truth, and there is no other deviation from that. Understand? In the spiritual dimension, all the love of the residents of the spiritual world is centered in Shri Krishna. Rupa Goswami also gives a definition. When the conditioned soul comes to the stage of their perfection, it is called a sthayi bhav. It means a permanent fixed emotion. And that sthayi bhav has been described. Sthayi bhava utrasa prokta Sri Krishna Vishayini Rati. That this feeling, this permanent sentiment, the object, the only object of it is Sri Krishna Vishayini Rati. The Vishaya, or the object of that love, is Sri Krishna. So of course here, Sri means Radhika. So it means Radha and Krishna are the focus. And of course the form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is directly the form also of Radha and Krishna. Understand? Krishna tasting the mood of Radhika is called Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that permanent feeling or permanent mood of love does not, first of all, switch and change and so forth and so on. And secondly, it is never broken, as I described earlier. Once it's established, it is never broken. You understand? Only any lila or pastime will strengthen the love. You understand? And then if you study Ujjwal and the Mani, many high-class definitions go from there. Like from pranay and from man, you will come to rag. Dukkam adikam chitte Shukatvaina evaru jayate. In Rag, the nature of love is so wonderful that dukkam arikam chitte, that what comes into the heart as a kind of suffering, due to the nature of the love of Krishna, is transformed into the greatest kind of happiness. Shri Rupa Goswami Pad is giving that in Braj, for any chaste lady, her chastity, lajja, her shyness, her chastity, is the most valued thing. You understand? Just think about in the case of Draupadi, when she was being offended by Dushashan. At that time, Draupadi, with everything she had, was trying to protect herself before she simply held up her hands and said, "Hey, Govinda." You understand? Why? Because in Vedic culture, the chastity of any lady is equated with life and death. You understand? There's nothing more painful than to even be accused of being non-chaste. What to speak of some actuality coming about like that? You understand? But Rupa Goswami Pad is told, even that threat of being known, called, or identified as being unchaste, which gives the greatest pain, just on the prospect that they will meet with Sri Krishna, who of course this is in Parakya mood, means paramour mood, that risk, thinking about when they will do, Radhika will do Abhisar, means to go to meet Krishna, gives the greatest pleasure. And therefore, if Radhika in the daytime is at Govardhan, she may go on the hill of Govardhan, and there are many razor-sharp stones on the hill of Govardhan. And in the midday, when Krishna has been tending his cows, but later, at that midday time, Krishna will make an excuse from cowherd boys to meet Srimati Radhika at Radhakund. At that time, Radhika, with her most intimate Sakhis, may be standing on the hill of Govardhan to try to get a glimpse of whether Krishna has started the journey towards Radhakund or not. While standing on those hot stones, very sharp, in the midday sun, Radhika feels no pain whatsoever at all. On the other hand, if her mother-in-law, Jatila, will tell to Kundalata, if Kundalata will come to pick up Radhika in the morning to take her to Nandagaon, the house of Krishna, to cook. Because as you know, Srimati Radhika was given a very great blessing by Durvasa Rishi, that for whomever she cooks, whoever takes the meals prepared by Radhika, they will live a very long and healthy and wonderful and prosperous life with many blessings. So one time when Kundalata came, because Yashoda Mai, she's like a queen, considered. Just like Kirtida, the mother of Radhika also, they're both like royalty, so to speak, in Braj. So because Yashoda Mai is like a queen, everyone gives honor and respect to that position. But Jatila began thinking, listen, why should I allow my daughter-in-law to go to the house of this person whom we have no real relationship with? Only by village connection we have relationship. Why my daughter should have to cook for her son and her family? This is Jatila's thinking like this. And therefore she told to Kundalata, no, my daughter-in-law will not come today and not go any day to Nanda Bhavan to do any cooking. At that time, in the inner chambers where Radhika stays with her Sakhis, Radhika, hearing this news, she fell into a faint. And in that faint, her bodily complexion completely changed. And her body temperature rose to a point where even the Sakhis, when they began to panic, they were taking cool drops of water, putting it on a very tender flower petal, and they would try to apply it to Radhika's body. The water would completely evaporate the steam, and the small flower petal would burn to ashes. Because Radhika, in her deep mood of separation, high-class mood of separation, I did not describe Prema up to the point of Radhika's Prema, which is called Madanaktya Mahabhav. There is nothing that exceeds that, and it only exists in Srimati Radhika. Some features of that Prema are called Sudipta Mahabhav, means that the particular ecstatic emotions, asta sattvic vikar, the transformations, they come in the highest degree with the most intensity. One sanchari bhav is called mriti. It means like dying. Like dying, not dying, but like dying. So you know when you're about to leave this world, the body temperature raises to a great fever pitch and so forth. So in the same way, in this state of ecstasy, Srimati Radhika in a faint was feeling like this in the symptoms I described. So at that time, when Jatila came to inquire what was wrong, the Sakhis told, oh no, what has happened is that Radhika was picking any flowers, and when she was picking the flowers to do the Surya Puja, because every day Radhika and her Sakhis will go to the temple of Surya Dev to do worship, and Jatila, her mother-in-law, will think this is for the welfare of our family. My son, Abhimanyu, and so forth. He will receive blessings by Radhika's faithful worship of Surya Dev. So he says, while she was picking the flowers, she was bitten by one snake. So Radhika's Sakhis are very expert. And they told to Jatila, yes, she was bitten by one snake. What snake? Oh, they understood that was the snake of the deep separation from Sri Krishna. But Jatila thought she was bitten literally by a snake. And I think I will go too long if I try to hold pastime, but there are many beautiful, beautiful pastimes. Chamatkar Chandrika Shri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur Pad. And he tells the whole story about how this Leela unfolds. And Krishna himself comes disguised as one doctor, and the whole Leela unfolds, and Jatila's mind is changed. Understand? But this is the nature of the beauty of the highest class of love manifested in Srimati Radhika. So the point here is that this kind of praying, it has qualities and functions that affect the heart in a way that the mundane quality of what we identify as love in this world can never touch. Not only that, but the essence of the exchange of love in this world is based on a mutual exploitation, so to speak. I don't want to use words that sound so heavy because there's never an intention to be exploitive. But the nature is, I love you because you make me happy. And in a variety of ways that you make me happy are the causation of why I love you. And in the absence of that causation, then I could not say I love you. Understand? So this is a kind of mutual exploitation. Whereas the gopis' love for Krishna, Atma Sukhe Duke Gopyo Nahiko Vichar. In the love that the gopis have for Krishna, there is no consideration Atma Sukh Duk. There's no consideration about how we feel. Everything is only for the pleasure of Sri Krishna. Krishna Indriya Prati Dare Prem Nam. In Chaitanya Charitamrita it's described. When Krishna is the center of any desire, that is called praying. But Atma Indriya Prati Tare Bhare Kam. If we're thinking of our own self-interest, that is called kam. Kam here means self-interest. Right? Kam translated as lust, but the essence of it is self-interest. Understand? So for these many reasons that I'm giving, there is not an actual comparison of the material concept of love to the transcendental description of what is praying. And of course, as you do bhajan sadhan, and even going through the prabhav of praying, because in this world the sadhaka will experience the prabhav first. Prabhav means the influence. The influence of praying begins in shraddha. Understand? When a person comes to, by their previous bhakti impressions, or by good fortune of somehow or another, they come to the position called mati. Mati means like the position in which you can discern that the material world is not the all in all. And you begin to ask questions about spiritual reality. You understand? That stage is called mati. Means when some vivek, means discrimination comes. This material world cannot be the all in all. And Srila Sanatana Goswami Pad is the epitome of asking this question, because he asked to Mahaprabhu, Ke ami, kene amai, jareta putrai. Who am I and why am I suffering? Even though other people say I'm very learned because I don't know these things, I don't consider myself very learned. Mahaprabhu responds in a synopsis way, Jivera Sarupoye Krishna Nitya Das, Jivera Tatasta Shakti, Ved Abed Prakash. And so Mahaprabhu answers, your real identity is your Das of Krishna. And any of your suffering has come because of Tatashta Swabhav, the nature of being marginal and therefore being a veil to being covered by the material energy. And that is the cause of suffering. Understand? So when we come to this point, at that time, the rescuing element that comes in to help us turn away from the continuum of material pursuits is called Shraddha. And this Shraddha has a power because it's a influence of Prema, the same Prema we're talking about, it's an influence of it. It has a power, and that power is described. Shraddha Anupayani Bharajam Bhakti Unmukhi Chitta Vritti Vishesh. Oh, Dandavad, Prabhuji. Haribo. I mentioning here, I don't want to break the chain of thought here, but I spoke to Bhumipati Prabhu, and he's reminded me that I've not been to your place in quite some time. So I'm promising that if I'm coming to New York anytime in the future, I'm definitely coming there. All right, Haribo Prabhu. So, like this, Shraddha Anupayani Bharajam Bhakti Unmukhi Chitta Vritti Vishesh. What could not be accomplished by the individual power of any jiva is accomplished by the slight prabhav, means slight influence of Prema in the form of Shraddha. Because in 11th Canto Srimad Bhagavatam, it is mentioned there, Anadi Avidya Yuktasha. I've quoted this verse so many times. Anadi Avidya Yuktasha Purushasha Vedatmanam Swato na Sambhavanti Anya Gyanatva Ganado Bhavet. So, the jiva has been connected with the material energy from anadikal, means time without any beginning. So sometimes we try to translate the word as time immemorial, time beyond when we can remember, but anadikal is anadikal, one way or another, right? So, swato na sambhavanti, to effect getting out of that material connection is not possible through our own energy. Anya, it requires another. Who is that other person? Ganatva Ganado Bhavet. So Ganatva means who is a sadhu, who's realized absolute truth. And Ganada, who's merciful, and therefore will reveal the absolute truth to you. That is the only way to get out of the material influence. So, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur Pad is mentioned, Ado Shraddha. When that mukti stage arises, and the jiva wants to know what else is there besides this material world, it's at that time, by the mercy of Bhagavan, Brahmanda Brahmati Kon Bhagavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasadhe Bhai Bhakti Latavij, that a sadhu comes into the purview of that particular jiva. Then by the influence of that sadhu, Shraddha arises. And then Bhakti Unmukhi Chitta Vritti Visesh. Then one turns their interest in life towards spiritual pursuit. And then under the further guidance of that sadhu, in their sangha. Sangha here means samyak rupein anugamana. Means to be following that sadhu with humility continuously. Because this is the meaning of the word anu here. Anugatya. Samyak rupein anugatya. Or anugamana. Means to continuously follow a sadhu with humility. Because anu here also means anutva. Means feeling oneself to be very insignificant. So that means if you're trying to follow the sadhu, but you're very proud, and you have a very challenging disposition, it'll be very difficult to follow in earnest by heart the sadhu. When you're following the sadhu, this is called doing sadhu shanga. When you are doing sadhu shanga, at that time, the teaching of the sadhu is given. This is called bhajana kriya. I mentioned these things many times before. So he is giving siksha in bhajan, how to perform the mood of service towards God. The Kriya Shakti of Bhagavan subsidizes your understanding and therefore through your senses gives a subsidy of those sensual activities like worshiping the deity, cooking, cleaning, chanting, anything you're doing with your senses, which normally would not be able to have the power to serve Bhagavan, are now subsidized by the Kriya Shakti of Bhagavan. That's why the third stage is called Bhajana Kriya. And now with that influence of the spiritual energy, the Bhajana Kriya, the anarthas can be removed. That stage is called anartha nivritti. When they're removed, nishchalaya, yasha iti nishta, then the vacillation of the consciousness of the jiva, his chitta or her chitta, will now be dominated by spiritual influence, and therefore the vacillation that takes place while you're still being challenged by your material impressions from previous lives and the current life begin to wane, and the dominance of the spiritual influence takes place in the chitta, making it steady. In that way, it becomes eligible to taste the nature of the spiritual energy. At a stage is called ruchi. You understand? So now your bhajan practice, ataha ruchi bhajan vishai. So the first stage of ruchi is that it becomes tasteful to chant, especially to hear Harikatha, to do seva to Hari Guru Vaishnava, all becomes very tasteful. Right? That is a symptom that spiritual influence is taking over the chitta. Then gradually when that matures, it becomes an attachment that you cannot give up. It is called ashakti. And when the stage of asakti only awaits for the descent of the mercy of Bhagavan in the form of the verse I quoted earlier, Suda Sattva Viseshatma Prem Sriyam Sasami, about this verse. And when that Suda Sattva, that spiritual energy, Swarup Shakti, descends onto the chitta, at that time, then Avir Bhuyamano Brito Rajayate Swarupatam Swayam Prakasha Rupopi Basamana Prakashavat. At that time, Rupa Goswami is writing in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that when it descends onto the chitta, it takes over the functions of the chitta, and now the spiritual energy itself has become one with the Atma and now operates exclusively on a spiritual paradigm. And it just stays in that mode until in Vastu city, when you take birth, wherever Krishna is performing his Leela, and you receive a body which is just suitable for that. That's described in the first canto, 6th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, in Narada Vyasambad, when Narada Muni is speaking to Vyasadeva. He told Vyasadeva, when I became perfect, Prayujamani Mahi Tvam Sudim Bhagavatim Tanum. Prabdha Karma Nirvano Anya Patat Panchabodhika. When I became completely purified, at that time, I saw that my all Prabdha Karmas, means all my karmic portfolio, was gone away. And the body of 5 elements also fell away with it. And at that time, I received a body that was completely suitable. Sudim Bhagavatim Tanum. Tanum means body. Sud body. Pure body. Fit to serve Bhagavan. And Prayujamane. Prayujamane is translated as awarded here because Jiva Goswami Pad, I read in Kram Sandarbha, means that without the mercy of Bhagavan it cannot happen. But another meaning of Prayuj is oneness, Tadya. Right? Prayuj. Yuj like yog means connected. Pra means like completely. So to be absolutely and completely connected to the spiritual identity and form that you have, it's called Prayuj. So in this way, I hope I've been able to describe in many different angles of vision why the term love is not really an adequate translation for prem, but because it's the only available English word, we use it. But we should try to understand the implications of prem according to what I've quoted from Guru Sadhu and Sastra here. There's a question here. Oh, Ramji, you're asking, vacillating. Not the word here. Vacillating or oscillating means going back and forth. When the consciousness is undergoing changes, right, between the material energy and the spiritual energy. And anybody who's in the process of unfoldment in bhakti knows that there are various stages of bhakti, and in these different stages of your evolution, you go through different stages of, like Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has described 27 things. 6 stages of unsteady bhakti. That means when you first come to bhakti, then there's something called Utsamai. Utsamai means in the first week that you come to bhakti, you may be very enthusiastic. It's something new. It's finally the answer to many of your questions. So you have a kind of enthusiasm. But Utsamai means that enthusiasm is kind of a false enthusiasm, because it's unsustainable until you actually begin to understand the actual nature of bhakti. Right now, it's just the newness and the relief from the sort of anxiety that came from not knowing about bhakti. A newfound enthusiasm has come. I'm practicing bhakti. So that first initial phase is called Utsamai. And then that goes to other stages like Vyudavikalpa, Tarangarangini. So I mean 6 different stages. You understand? And then you have to deal with 4 kinds of 4 nartas, 5 kinds of subtle influence like Loy, Vikshepa, Pratipatti, etc. So I'm not giving class here on Madhurya Kandamini, but if you read Madhurya Kandamini, all these things are there. Understand? So while we're going through those things, the chitta is actually vacillating back and forth. That's the actual meaning of Vyuda Vikalpa, right? Vacillating back and forth between material thoughts and spiritual thoughts. So when you come to the stage of Nishta, the dominance of the spiritual energy that has been gleaned from sudden bhajan life and the mercy of Guru, right? It solidifies, clarifies, and pacifies the chitta. So there's less influence of the material energy, and therefore a predominance of the spiritual energy that's coming through Harikatha, through your chanting of Harinam, through your seva to Hari Guru and Vaishnavas, becomes dominant in the chitta, and it gives rise to a wonderful taste in all of those things. That stage is called Ruchi. All right, my devotees, please give me your blessings and your mercy to go on serving Hari Guru and Vaishnava. Today also is it the Tirobhav Titi? Maybe the Tirobhav Titi means disappearance day. I'll have to look again. Of Srila Bhakti Rakshak Srila Goswami Maharaj, who is a very prominent disciple of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and was a very dear god brother of our Srila Prabhupada. You can read in so many histories how he was very dear to our Srila Prabhupada. And there's a kind of unique relationship because our Srila Prabhupada loved Srila Shuddha Maharaj like Shiksha Guru and very dear friend. And our Param Gurudev, Srila Bhakti Prakan Kesha Goswami Maharaj, he received his sannyas from Srila Bhakti Rakshak Srila Maharaj, and our Srila Prabhupada received sannyas from Srila Bhakti Prakan Kesha Goswami Maharaj. So there's very unique connections here. And so we also want to honor this day and pray for the causeless mercy of Srila Bhakti Rakshak Srila Goswami Maharaj. He's written many books translated in, or written in English, because his English was very fluent. And very wonderful books like Sri Guru and His Grace, Guardians of Devotion, and The Golden Volcano. So he's written many, many helpful books for those who are practicing on the path of bhakti. And there are also many lectures over the course of years that he gave to follow the order of our Srila Prabhupada to help with Srila Prabhupada's disciples in their continued growth. I spoke the other day that our Srila Prabhupada manifested his Leela for 11 or 12 years. And even if you were with Srila Prabhupada from day one to his Samadhi Leela, that was 11 or 12 years at the most. And we can see now in our 50th year, 40th year of practice, you know, how serious time it takes to develop some understanding genuinely in bhakti. So after 10 or 11 years, of course, I cannot speak to everybody because bhakti samskars are different in everyone. But in general, after 11 or 12 years, there may not have been such great depth of understanding. So our Srila Prabhupada therefore gave order that especially two persons he pointed out. One was, of course, his own dear friend and like Shiksha Guru, Srila Bhakti Rakshak Siddha Goswami Maharaj. And then during the course of his Samadhi Leela, he held the hand of my Guru Parapadma, Srila Narayan Goswami Maharaj, and asked also that you should help my disciples. So I have very many tapes and everything else of the direct experience of that happening, that many devotees had gone to inquire from Srila Sridhar Maharaj and of course from my Srila Gurudev to understand deeper concepts in bhakti. And neither Srila Sridhar Maharaj nor my Guru Parapadma had interest to gain anything from that, simply to follow the order of their very dear friend. And in my Guru Maharaj's case, my Guru Maharaj considered Srila Prabhupada his Shiksha Guru, just as Srila Prabhupada considered Srila Bhakti Rakshak Siddha Goswami Maharaj his Shiksha Guru, and his very dear friend Srila Bhakti Pragan Keshav Goswami Maharaj and his Sannyas Guru. So like this, there was no other motive except among them to carry out the order that was given by Srila Prabhupada before his Samadhi Leela and during his Samadhi Leela. Understand? So, alright, my Dandavat Pranam. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindhuvevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Radhe Radhe.